There was a time you'd always be finding Kango products in Zimbabwean homes, specifically in the kitchen. You'd be finding Kango pots, you'd be finding pan, tumblers, even the very famous brands of stoves, Princess and Duchess brand. These were the symbol of progress in the middle class in Zimbabwean society. If you had these, you were stable, you had a family kitchen, you had a home. Now it's 2026 and things are different. We live in a global, connected world, and in the African market, the key word is imports, specifically Chinese imports. Now, we have to think about this in the context of the term. I just talked about globalization, how we're closer together. Then I also talked about trade. Now, in terms of trade, we have a few considerations which you have to make. Talk about the balance of trade. How much are we trading? Are we trading at parity? Am I giving you one of something, you give me one of another? Are we equal? Or are there deficits? Am I trading, spending more than I'm receiving from you? Or are there surpluses? Am I selling you more than you are selling to me? In the case of Africa and China, or specifically, let's say, consider Zimbabwe, as we started out talking about our own country. We trade with the Chinese. We seem to be selling them more than they are selling to us. That sounds like a positive thing. We must be getting wealthier. But we have to ask ourselves then, what exactly that we are selling the Chinese? We're selling them minerals, mostly in their raw state. We're selling them lithium, we're selling them chrome, we're selling them iron, rare earth minerals. And even in the agro-produce sector, we're selling them their agro-produce. In exchange, what are we getting from the Chinese? What do we trade for? We trade mostly for finished goods, from electronic, vehicles, and even items in light industry. There is a lot of processed goods that are coming from the east, so to speak. We did say that when we're trading, we seem to be having a situation where we're selling more than we're buying. But then the question still comes back, we have to break it down a bit further. At what cost? If you're going to go to an average Chinese shop, I'm going to do this as an exhibit. I'm going to play a video where you're going to be checking out and seeing the jobs on offer. In the advert, you see the people who are required. Essentially, these 10 people don't have much skill that's required to fulfill the job function. They're general hands. Essentially, you move around stock, you pack things. The most sophisticated role in that case would be the till operator, where you handle money, take payments, give change, manage refunds. Or in most cases, refunds are not allowed in these shops. That's the sort of thing. So from the media you just saw, you can clearly see the demand for employment in the African continent, the demand for employment amongst young people in Zimbabwe. There's such a huge turnout for such limited sport, and for that general type of work, you can clearly see what I would say is generally an imbalance of young, able-bodied people who could, in other cases, be properly employed and used in a functional industry. Now, when we are having the jobs debate, I think it's important for us to look at where we started off, where we're saying what are our primary products which we're exporting, in which we say that we're exporting primarily raw minerals, agro-produce, and one of the most popular ones, tobacco itself. But we have to compare these, let's say, at a macroeconomic level in terms of the key issue that we have in our own country, which is unemployment. Fair and fine, we are exporting more to China than we are importing. But let's look in terms of one primary product to get a better understanding. Let's say the expectation of a basic minerals, basic iron ore. If we take a look at the iron ore that goes and is exported, then it comes back in the form of, let's say, your utensils, your other steel artifacts, in terms of other components that are going to be part of car parts. Besides the utensils, we're talking about kitchen stuff and that sort of thing. If we take a look at the employment across industries, in a factory that manufactures these things, you're going to require a welder, a fitter and turner, fabricator, fabricator, a machinist, those people who are dealing with actually servicing the equipment that produces these things, as well as the actual production line. You're going to have support staff in terms of people who do with the occupational health and safety. You have people who are going to be doing the accounting of the firms or the factories that are producing these things. The people who are dealing with the marketing, stock control, logistics. These are all jobs that are exported when we have bulk the product being made from a basic raw material that we would have exported. In exchange, the only jobs that we remain with are, let's say, at a satellite mine, who, let's say in the modern age, is maximizing on efficiency. They have machines to do ore digging. They have a couple of extra people, of course, who are working the grounds, general logistics here and there. But if it doesn't take a very sophisticated mind to notice that there would exist an imbalance in terms of there being more jobs in terms of industry than in the primary industry. Clearly, in this case, as a country, and if I speak for the continent, if we look broadly, will be at a loss. We seem to be exporting more, but per se, we're actually losing in the long term. We end up exporting jobs to China. We end up exporting potential, and what we have that remains in our society is a lot of unemployment, a lot of able-bodied young people who could be working but are out of jobs. Now, in trade and in economics in general, you're going to have the argument where we say, but we can't have a closed-up economy. We can't create monopolies which are going to stifle creativity. That's a fair point. But the question now becomes in terms of viability again. Why is it that we're finding that a pot that's made in China comes to Zimbabwe and is cheaper? That's the first point in an economy like ours than a pot that's being made and manufactured locally. Well, there are policy issues, of course, we can interrogate, like maybe taxation, the cost of energy, and that sort of thing. There's even discussions where one would say these things already have tariffs. In this case, it's tariffs. It's say charges, extra percentages that are put on the products as they come to our country and at the border to try and make sure that they are as expensive or as taxed as much so that they can be better competed with in the local Zimbabwean market. But then the question comes to say, already we know that we've porous borders. Already we know that we have issues with smuggling. One would want to ask and say, in a proper normal setting, are we saying that all of these goods that are coming in and being sold at these cheaper prices really are taxed and none are smuggled? What makes it still as viable? It's a question, and it's something that has to be interrogated possibly, and the findings might be interesting. But then again, we say, fair point, let's consider that these tariffs are in place. Why are the products that are being brought in still cheaper? And can we interrogate our own local industry and say, is it that you guys are overpricing or you're failing to innovate in your sales so that you're able to sell more product and to lower margins and make up and make your profits in terms of the revenue you generate and how quickly you generate? It's another question. But then it comes back to the pricing models that we find in these countries. If the Chinese have the market as Africa, if they have a model where they are getting raw minerals and in exchange they are flooding those countries, or they have those countries as the market for the same utensils, for the same pots, for the same tumblers, this low value light industry goods, then we can say that as a country locally, we might find it difficult to still have even a viable, innovative, competitively priced Kango product. That product might still find it difficult to be sold across the huge expanse the Chinese market is conquered. Take a point. If the Chinese can sell 1 million pounds a day in Africa, and considering all the costs and everything, they still remain with a 10-cent margin. They still make $100,000 as a manufacturer or as a unit in Africa for those 1 million pots they sell. If you're only selling 1,000 pots as a Kango product, and even in your own local market, you're competing against this product, there's no way where you can look at the thing and say you can competitively be priced or engage in a price war relative to volumes. Even if you're going to try and scale and say you've just that local market to conquer, at a price point, it becomes inviable for you to be able to compete. So the discussion point we've been having mostly around Chinese import, around the effect on the local industry, is going to be felt also in the retail sector. Now, if you take a look at Chinese shops which are around, I'll take a case in point to consider the city of Bulawayo. They are mostly, let's say, all over the place. These shops are mostly unbranded. The shops have a distribution network strategically, as intelligently as any entrepreneurs be. We don't fault this. I wanted you to take a case in point and look, though, in terms of employment. We've considered already that the numbers in that space are somewhat lower than we'd say if we're having employees that we're taking up places in a manufacturing process, like in the case study we're having of Kango Industries. Or much more critically, in the bigger retail chain stores which used to dominate and work hand in hand with local Zimbabwean industry. In the cash economy, you see that traditional shops or retail chains are finding it a bit difficult to distribute in their give me a product first and I'll sell and pay you at the end of a financial period. Some of these traditional retailers, such as TM and the In Trouble OK, used to be distribution points for products from Zimbabwean industries, like let's say in their cookware section. And when they face difficulty, it ripples through the market. If you take a comparative look in terms of the structure of employment and the scale of employment, these shops clearly outpace what's the network of Chinese shops which have replaced them in the chain. So in terms of general sustainability and labor practices in the Zimbabwean economy, the traditional retailers like Pick n Pay and OK Supermarket or the OK chain, if you take a look at the model they had as a business or going concern, they offered more job security in the market in terms of saying, if they were hiring, you can clearly see that the benefits that are there and the labor protections that were in place, they were more, let's say, conducive to sustainable practices. Even if a concern would go maybe through a marginal loss in a one quarter or a financial period or a number of financial period, you wouldn't exactly have the guillotine go on jobs as they would be in the retail system that's offered in Chinese shops. These shops, in terms of Chinese shops, are clear going concerned in terms of moving their product in cash, and you can clearly see that they are not run over or with strategic views or over long periods of time. If there is a downturn, you clearly see that there's no security for employees. But if there's profits, these profits are reaped and there is no clear return or consummate compensation of workers in terms of benefit and that sort of thing. It's reported that some practices in terms of remuneration of workers in the China shop retail system, it's on a cash basis. Now, if you look at an employee, if you're employed traditionally in a retailer, let's say in the functional times like OK or TM, you're being paid on a banked system. You're being paid, which gives you financial history, which makes you qualify for benefits such as loans, taking out insurance policies. There is a clear footprint. This is not exactly the case you're going to be experiencing in a retail system dominated by instant appear and possibly instant disappear China shops. So an interesting discussion point around labor practices and why we'd want to see a case in point where we do have compliant and vibrant industry again. In 2015, actually, we had a law case where Treger Industries was involved in a dispute with some of its employees that terminated from its Monarch Steel operation. Essentially, the workers were complaining that they'd been terminated without their benefits, so to speak, at the end of contract. Now, government stepped in, and in that case, Treger and the employees were grieving, we had grievances, ended up settling out of court. Now, the key that we're discussing here is relative to this whole point is, if we have functional industries, case in point like Treger Industries in this case, which is under the supervision of the laws of the land and our judicial system, we have a system where the protections of workers' rights are enforced. We have a system where labor practices can be properly discussed and issues resolved. Now, that's unlike the situation which we have where we have dominant retail players who come up and are not even branded clearly and are not clearly on the radar of government. We have a situation where employees can be terminated, hired, or disabused of their rights in a shadow system that's not fully regulated or allegedly or argued. So that's why we want to be more in a system where we want companies like Treger Industries, companies that are in the bigger scheme, the function of our state, bigger scheme of the function of industry and employment in the country to actually be vibrant and be protected, as compared to opening the market completely just to private retail players who are in there for the profit. I want to look at the labor laws or the labor situation that is around that situation. Now, some of these jobs you'd question as to, besides remuneration, you'd question as to what's the longevity, what's the long play? Is there investment, for instance? Are they properly represented in workers' union? You're going to find that maybe in most cases, this is not really a place where in such an economy where there's high unemployment, that workers are able to negotiate for better conditions, better salaries. The other point is in the very long term. What happens? You saw the age bracket of a hiring between maybe 20 to 26 years old getting into a place. These are relatively young people who are, let's say, enticed to say, come through. I think maybe, I'd assume, on the basis of a lower salary, so to speak. These are people who are not in a familiar settings and have high expectations of wages. The second point you'd consider is what then would happen. Another point you'd consider then is what would then happen if you're taking a look at a situation in 30 years to come. Are there pension funds that workers that are working in these jobs as standalone or as networks that they are benefiting? I'll give you an example. If you're considering, let's say, another case for industrialization, when we're talking about a formal company like Edgar's or the Matebelele clothing company, companies from back then which were working under a system in Zimbabwe where things were formalized. These companies had workers who were in workers' union. These companies had workers who were working and contributing pension funds. A good example is the clothing industry pension. If you're working in such a formal setting, you're part of a negotiating board, you're making contributions, you had a payslip, formal payslip, bank payslip, you're making contributions to a pension fund, to your future in 60 years. Now, if we're having China shops and we're having these young people who are coming in, and I've seen the trend where they're constantly recycled, I would like to think, and I would put my money on the fact that there is no future. It's retail today, and if you are recycled out of the system, let's say in 5 years, you've got, besides maybe terminal benefit, which would think outside of a negotiating body, these are also very much minimal. You've got no pension. The work years you would have in a formal system, you don't have the benefit or cushion of such a system. So in any economy, the role of a pension fund is very broad, and it's critical to link generations and to form essentially the economic backbone of a country. Essentially, if you think about pension funds, they're supposed to be funded from contributions, for instance, from workers of productive age. Actually, these 20 to 26-year-olds or even old people, but people who've got functioning energy in an economy. The money they contribute towards these funds is supposed to do a number of things in the economy. The most critical is to drive investment. Since it's money that's put up, it can be used, for instance, to invest in companies, invest in buildings, invest in infrastructure that would be useful to generate more jobs and more income within an economy for a return. It's like actually betting on tomorrow in safe assets. So the secondary point I wanted to put across, some people actually consider it as the very primary and most essential part or function of a pension fund. It's actually to support people in their retirement post their working years. Actually, these young and vibrant ages from 20 to 26 that are being required in these functional shops. Contributions from workers who are able-bodied and young and still in the workplace, you need to take care of them when they can't work anymore. When you've been working, let's say at a company like Treger Industries, making pots at the Kango division, and you're now 60, you're retiring, you can't do the job anymore. You need to be able to say, I want to leave, maybe I want to be able to pay rent, do the little things. We're saying maybe you've done capital intense stuff, like you've already built your house and that sort of thing, but you need money for medication, you need money to move around. Even sometimes, let's say you want to fund a holiday, you need to be able to draw from the sweat that you would have worked for and entrusted someone to be able to invest on your behalf. Now, if we have a system where predominantly the industries that are supposed to support these people by manufacturing and being able to convert sales under pressure from a lot of cheap foreign imports that employ people and don't essentially have key contribution to their terminal benefits when they retire in terms of pension funds. You see that we have a problem. It's essentially us existing in a system where we don't have the foresight and vision to say that people will grow old and they will leave the workplace. So another more sophisticated function of investment or of pension funds is actually investments, I mean to say. Investment in bonds, investment in infrastructure, like we're saying, where pension funds contributing to buildings. In Zimbabwe, the most notable you see, for instance, I'll consider Bulawayo. There's a number of National Railways pension fund buildings in Bulawayo, including one of the tallest buildings in the city. These house businesses today, and they're continuing to earn revenue, support businesses in terms of having them have places to work for. The plazas you see, the office spaces that their SME can operate in our city. This was only possible from an industry which was the railways in its heyday, when it was moving freight, linking countries in the south, in sub-Saharan Africa, or the whole of Africa, here actually is the point where I would say we need to be able to support the industries in intentional output positions like our companies, like Treger Industries, in terms of not only employing, but having them have a workforce which earns enough from the market sales which come through by Treger dominating the market. And when they earn enough, they make contributions to these pension funds in our country. These pension funds can then continue to grow the country in terms of investments and stuff like that. Recently, we had, in Zimbabwe, we had a checkered history with our currency issues. From the time where we've had the land reform, sanctions, and the number of times we're trying to devise means to have our currency stable. Companies which are functional in industry can buy bonds, invest in government, invest in our monetary system, and show confidence in our society as a whole. If we don't have the functional industry, the underpinning element which supports these systems, we can't essentially say we'll be able to properly build our country. As of 2019, Treger Industries employed more than 3,000 workers. You're looking at it, let's say it's a single unitary family, that's 3,000 families in the nation of Zimbabwe that have an income. If you consider the number of imports that run into tens of millions of dollars every year, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, you think about the money that could go into Treger Industries and make them more vibrant, make them hire more people, make it conducive, give them a broader market share. I think it's also important that I point out that when I refer to Chinese or China shops, these are not exclusively operations that are run by foreign nationals. Some of these shops, of course, they work hand in hand with local representatives or local entrepreneurs who will be sourcing goods and moving them into the Zimbabwean market. Critically, the whole point of having this discussion isn't to say or recommend that let's build up the local economy from the opportunities that come up and the variants that come up with imports. The idea is just to say let's properly tariff and tax these goods so that we don't kill local industry. Let's make sure that the playing field is comparatively equal and comparatively moderated so that we protect jobs, we protect local taxation systems, and we protect our own society's security generally, and not just be giving unfettered capitalism the run of the road, ignorant of the effects that it will have on our local communities. So if this discussion stirred a thought in you today, do subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and do share. Till the next one, we're out.